For number 10, we have the 2014 San Antonio Spurs. This team went 62-20 on the regular season and 16-7 in the playoffs. Now, one thing I will get off of this list is that every single team on here will be an NBA champion. Now, the top 3 players in this team, I believe, were Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Kawhi Leonard. These 3 players all contributed well to this team. Kawhi Leonard overall winning the Finals MVP that year. This team was also very, very deep, with their roster being perfectly constructed around the great coach and Greg Popovich. Going into their advanced statistics, they were ranked 7th in offensive rating and 3rd in defensive rating. I think the best thing about this team was their defensive capabilities, though. Now let's talk about the ball movement of this team. This was a perfect team for ball movement. They really tried to get the perfect shot every single time they were down the court. This put them 2nd in efficient field goal percentage that season. If you look at these highlights, you'll see that they move the ball in and around the key to try to get the desired shot in that possession.
A little over 4 minutes remaining. San Antonio's pace and ball movement has not let up the entire ball game.
Lastly, 62 wins was the most in a season that year, and I think that this team really cements themselves as one of the greatest teams of all time, getting them at number 10 on this list. For number 9, we have the 1987 Los Angeles Lakers. They were 65-17 in the regular season, and they were 15-3 in the postseason. Now, the 3 best players in no particular order were James Worthy, Magic Johnson, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all having really big roles on this team. Magic Johnson carrying the team in assisting and scoring, but Kareem and James Worthy backing him up in the scoring field. Also having great role players on Michael Cooper, Michael Thompson, AC Green, and Byron Scott. Michael Cooper winning the DPOY that year. Overall, having really good players that contributed towards winning basketball. Next, going into the advanced statistics, these teams was ranked 1st overall in offensive rating and 7th overall in defensive rating. In my opinion, this team is built perfectly to run an offense, with Magic Johnson running the playmaking and James Worthy and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scoring off his assists. Plus, a lot of players could score the ball on this team, with 7 players being in double-digit points. I think realistically, this is one of the greatest offensive teams of all time. And their schedule was fairly tough, having one of the best SRS ratings in the league that year. All in all, beating the Boston Celtics in a 4-2 series in the finals to win the championship, with Magic Johnson getting the finals MVP.
Double team lead. Cooper wide open.
For number 8, we have the 1967 76ers. For this season, they went 68-13 in the regular season and 11-4 in the playoffs. Now, the 3 best players I believe that were on this team were Wilt Chamberlain, Hal Greer, and Chet Walker. With Wilt Chamberlain actually winning MVP this year, he only averaged 19 points, but he also did average 19 rebounds as well. And sticking it down for the defensive side of this team, even though that there was no defensive awards back then. And I think this team was pretty flawless on offense for their competition. They averaged about 125 points a game, with 6 players in the double digits, with Billy Cunningham scoring 18 points, being an honorable mention on my list for the best players. Now, going into the advanced statistics, they're ranked 1st in offensive rating and 3rd in defensive rating. I think this team is best known for their offense. For number 7, we have the 2000 Los Angeles Lakers. They went 67-15 in the regular season and 15-8 in the playoffs, and sweeping the Indiana Pacers in the finals, as we know. Now, the top 3 players in this team, I think, were Shaq, Kobe, and Glenn Rice. Glenn Rice actually was in a good spot in his career. I thought that he was a little past his prime, but he wasn't, and Shaq won MVP that year. Now, Shaq had an absolutely dominant season that year, averaging 30 and 14 rebounds, with also 3 blocks, getting 2nd in DPOY as well. I think that he really controlled the offense and defense of this team. But Kobe in this time gave a great second option scorer who could really score the ball efficiently in the mid-range or inside. Now, this team was kind of lacking in the depth, but they did have big players that could make big shots, like Robert Horry or Derek Fisher, with no one really running the offense, but everyone kind of got their assist. And this was all playing mostly through Shaq. Now, into the advanced statistics, this team was 5th in offensive rating, but 1st in defensive rating. I think that they'd had great on-ball and off-ball defenders, with Shaq really blocking the interior whenever he can. That's about it for the 2000 Lakers. Now watch this clip. It's one of my favorite of all time.
Portland has 3 timeouts left. The Lakers have 2. Bryant to Shaq!
Now that's some lovely basketball. All right, and for number 6, we have the 1991 Chicago Bulls. They went 61-21 in the regular season and 15-2 in the playoffs. I think they really rise their ability in the playoffs. And they did this especially by gentlemen sweeping a fantastic Lakers team. Now, going in the top 3 players of this team, I would go Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Horace Grant. I think all 3 of these players were a really valuable asset to the team. Michael Jordan winning the MVP that year, but Scottie Pippen really running the ball and being more of a point forward. Also, Horace Grant was a great rebounder, and he ran the center for this team. Now, going into the advanced statistics, they were first in offensive rating, but 7th in defensive rating. I think their offense was almost flawless, with Michael Jordan running most of the scoring for this team, averaging about 31 points, but having two really good defensive players in Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, with a good guard and forward position, but I think their center was a little bit lacking for this team. And I think three key role players on this team were John Paxson, B.J. Armstrong, and Bill Cartwright, giving them decent depth in positions that they were lacking, especially with the center and the point guard. But overall, I think this team was fantastically built and great offensively.
See, there it is again. And Horace Grant gets it right back from Michael.
For number 5, we have the 2013 Miami Heat, who had a record of 66-16 and a playoff record of 16-7. Now, getting right into it, I think the three best players on this team were LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, one of the greatest trios of all time. Now, LeBron James this year was the MVP, and this was his greatest defensive season in my opinion. With an almost perfect defensive guard and forward, this team was crazy, having great role players in Mario Chalmers, Ray Allen, and Shane Battier as well. Having a great three-point shooting team and LeBron shooting one of his best seasons at that time, and Ray Allen being absolutely locked in every single second of the game. Now, going into the advanced statistics, they were 2nd in offensive rating and they were 9th in defensive rating. I think this perfectly sums them up because they were their best on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, they were a little lackluster in some positions, but they were still fairly good.
Attention to detail and laser pass.
Now, the only knock I have on them is their pace. They were 23rd in pace. But anyways, watch this Ray Allen three-pointer. Yeah!
James catches, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game!
Ray Allen, you dirty, dirty man. Number 4, we have the 1986 Boston Celtics. They went 67-15 in the regular season, and they went 15-3 in the playoffs. And if you look at these highlights, I think this team is one of the greatest passing teams of all time. They really moved the ball so well and got the open shot every single time. The team chemistry is absolutely unmatched. And for the top 3 players, I have Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Dennis Johnson, with a very heavy honorable mention to Robert Parrish. And I think that their depth was good. They had the 6th man of the year in Bill Walton, and they had Scott Wedman and Danny Ainge, who all gave their own little ability to this team. Now, into the advanced statistics, they were 3rd in offensive rating and 1st in defensive rating. This team was a very steady defensive team. They had great players off the bench and on the court that were good at defense and could guard the ball well, i.e. having good perimeter defenders in Larry Bird, Danny Ainge, and Dennis Johnson, but also having good rim protectors in Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale, with Bill Walton also coming off the bench for them, which in turn lands them at our number 4 spot. For number 3, we have the 1971 Los Angeles Lakers, the 3rd time they are on this list. Their record was 69-13 in the regular season and 12-3 in the postseason. Now, the top 3 players on this team were probably Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain, and Gail Goodrich. Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West were both 2 and 3 in the MVP voting that year. Now, as a scoring team, this team was fantastic. They were 1st in pace, and they had 6 players in double-digit points. Now, while Wilt Chamberlain was not in his prime at the time, he still had a great defensive and rebounding ability, with Jerry West running the offense, averaging 10 assists and 26 points a game, with Jim McMillan, Gail Goodrich, and Happy Harrelson, along with Elgin Baylor, assisting in the scoring ability. Now, going into the advanced statistics, there was less teams at this time, but they were still 1st in offensive rating and 2nd in defensive rating. Those are the 2 highest ratings for one team on this list. In my opinion, I think they had one of the perfectly constructed teams that could lead on the offensive and defensive side of the ball very well. At 2, we have the 1996 Chicago Bulls. They went 72-10 in the regular season, and they went 15-3 in the playoffs. This was the first team ever to hit 70 wins in the NBA at that point. Now, the top 3 players I think that were on this team are Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman having a fantastic rebounding ability, Michael Jordan with his undefeated scoring ability, and Scottie Pippen running a point forward position. Now, the reason this team was so great is because they had players that could contribute to 2 sides of the ball. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen with their fantastic scoring and defensive abilities, with Luke Longley also having flashes of good offensive abilities with good rim protecting, and Dennis Rodman obviously one of the greatest rebounders of all time. And you can't forget about Tony Kukoc, who also added to that scoring ability, being a good forward who could shoot the ball. Now, the advanced statistics. They were ranked 1st in offensive and defensive rating, being the only team to do that on this list. And I mean, that just shows you that this team was perfectly constructed in every single way. And that's a big reason why they're here at number 2 on this list.
Jordan from Cooper.
Now at number 1, we have the 2017 Golden State Warriors. They went 67-15 in the regular season, and they went 16-1 in the playoffs. Now I put them on this list because they have one of the greatest ball movement teams of all time. They really knew when to get that open shot and where to pass to just score the ball. Now the top 3 players on this team is difficult, but that's why they're in no specific order. I have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. With a heavy honorable mention to Klay Thompson. Do not worry, I will mention him.
I mean, if this isn't one of the greatest offensive teams of all time, then what is? Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant really speaks for itself. The shooting was fantastic, and they had a great point forward in Draymond, who could also defend the ball super well. This team is just fantastic. And no, they did not face bums in the playoff. They swept a 61-21 Spurs team. What the hell? Now into the advanced statistics, they were first in offensive rating, obviously, and they were second in defensive rating. Still one of the most perfectly construed teams of all time, and that's why they're number 1 on this list.
Timing is excellent.
Out to Durant for 3.